Let us create a functional contact form using PHP programming. First, open your local server. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm using XAMPP. So if you are using XAMPP or WAMP or whatever local server you are using, all you need to do is to start your Apache. Next, locate the directory on your PC where your local server is installed. And for those using XAMPP, open the htdocs folder. And for those using WAMP, open the www folder. And when you do, create a new folder for your project. So I'm going to be creating a new folder here. And I'm going to name it contact form without spaces. You can give yours whatever name you choose to. Next, open your text editor and open the folder you've created for your project. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm using Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to locate my htdocs folder and locate the folder I've created for this project, which is the contact form. When you do, create your PHP file. And I'm going to name this file contact.php. Let me quickly introduce the HTML and CSS into the PHP file we've created. But then I'm not going to be bringing in much explanation on the HTML and the CSS because the main focus is on PHP. So this is the HTML and CSS, but then there are a few things you need to note in the form that's in the contact form that I've designed. So in the contact form, we have an input field for name, and we have an input field for email, and we have an input field for message. Please note the name assigned to each of these input field. For name, I gave it name. For the name for email, I gave it email. The name for message, I gave it message. So note these things, and in case in your own contact form you are giving different names to these input fields, make sure to note them, because we are going to be making use of that while writing the PHP code. To further check if we are on track, go to your browser and on the address bar type localhost / the name you've given to the folder you created for this project / the name you've given to the PHP file you've created for the contact form. So in my own case, it's going to be localhost / contact form / contact.php. So do that and it should be able to display the form you've designed on the screen like you can see here. Next, let's write the PHP code that will make the form functional. First, we check for form submission. To do that, we use if statement. Next, we sanitize user inputs. before we proceed, we need to introduce what we are posting here. So first is the name. What name did we give it here? In my code, we gave it name. Sorry, let me write that in small letter. Next, we have email. What name did we give it here? Email. So we introduce that as well. And finally, we have the message. What name did we give it? Message. Next, we validate required fields. We will use an if statement to do that. We say if name is empty, remember we've given the name a variable, or email is empty, remember we've given email a variable. Or message is empty. Let's assign a variable to the error message called error. So if any of the input field is empty, then it's going to display this error message. Else, so if none is empty, then it's going to proceed. To send the mail, we are going to use the mail function. First, write the mail you wish to receive this message to. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to use this mail so we can check it. So if this mail is successful, we are going to introduce another variable called success, which we are going to use to display the success message, same way we've done for this error. else, if something happens and the message is not sent, then the user should get an error. The next thing we need to do is to find a way to display the error and success message since we assigned it a variable. So to do that, let's use an if statement if error is not empty, so let's give it a class so we can style it. Let's do the same on the error. Let's quickly style it so that we can test once. That's class of error, text align, center, background color. For error, the background color we use red. Let's just duplicate that and change a few things. For success, the background color should be green. I think we are good to go. Let's test. To check if our form is working, let's try to send a message. So name, Jonathan, email, I'm just going to use anything. And message, let me say so let's click on send message, and we are having this success message here saying message delivered successfully. So let's check the email we used on the code. That's the receiving email we used on our code to check if we actually received this message I just sent. On the mail, you can see the mail we just received, and you can see the subject, which is new contact request, which is what we used in our code. And now you might be wondering why you are seeing XYRNG here. It's because of the SMTP I used to configure my XAMPP to be able to send mail from localhost, which points us to another thing. So this is the mail here. So which points us to another thing. If you've not configured your localhost to be able to send mail, you are definitely going to get an error like this. If you are getting this error, it simply means your local server is not configured to send mail. And I've written an article on how to configure your local host, be it XAMPP, be it WAMP, how to configure it to send mail on my portfolio website. So to do that, visit my portfolio, sunshineihttts.me. While on my portfolio, go to the search bar and type send mail from localhost and search. So it's going to show you this article, how to configure XAMPP and WAMP to send mail from localhost. So all you need to do is to follow the instruction I've provided on the article and configure your local server to be able to send mail. But for those of you who are going to be testing on a live server, which means you have a hosting package somewhere and the domain name. So if you deploy the code which we've written, it's going to work successfully without you having any issues. If you are testing on the local server and your local server is not yet configured to send mail, you are going to get an error. So you can follow this article to be able to configure your local server to send mail. Thank you for hanging on till the end. If you need the source code, I've provided the complete source code on my portfolio, sunshineihttts.me. And if you are looking for a good hosting provider to host your PHP projects, use InbuiltWeb. Visit inbuiltweb.com to get started and use my promo code sunshineihttts on the checkout to get 10% off.